Cool. So we're on we're 10 minutes into it. So
Hmm.
why don't we kick it off? Great, cool. So
Yeah, let's kick it.
welcome again to How Much Time Do You Have? We hope you have the time. I am Alejandro. I'm here with Krzysztof and I'm getting better at
You're getting better at it.
it. And we are here to discuss this is the fourth installment, can you believe it? Already the fourth installment of Vatican II documents. Specifically, we're looking at Sacrosanctum Concilium, and we have been. This is the fourth in a series of what will hopefully be many more to follow, where we're going to be unpacking the documents of Vatican II. Why are we doing that? We're doing that because very often people say, okay, this is the last ecumenical council. It was a monumental council, and people are constantly citing it. But has anybody even really read the documents? Do they even really know what's going on? Sometimes we've already come across that there's a bit of abuse that tends to happen because of the way that it's interpreted, and so we as Catholics would like to try to clarify that both for ourselves and for those viewing and listening, right? Cool. So, yeah, let's, like I said, let's kick it off. We're going to be, right. Let's
Let's
kick it off.
introduce ourselves first.
Right. Yes. Again. Yes, of course. So, thank you very much. So, Krzysztof, why don't you kick us off? Kick us off and tell us
Alrighty.
about yourself.
Alrighty. So, hello, my wonderful people. My name is Krzysztof. I'm a 26 years old, a 26-year-old Catholic from Poland, and I am a soon-to-be theologian. I'm currently finishing my degree, and if all goes well, I'll defend myself this year. Other than that, I also teach languages online. I teach Polish to foreigners as well as English. So if any of you would be interested, you can comment down in the comment section and we'll get back to you. And I also play music. I play guitar, I sing a little bit, I also rap, and yeah, that's pretty much it about me.
So as a polyglot and a man of many trades and skills, are
Pretty much
you
a
are
Renaissance man.
do you actually, I never asked, do you teach as well? Like teach music? Or is that
Uh,
not something?
I, I don't. I guess I could,
Mm,
show somebody the basics and sort of explain
okay.
the how some stuff connects on the fretboard
Okay.
and stuff like that. But I'm not like but I'm not super savvy regarding music theory. It's not like I'm a Berkeley student or anything like that, you
No,
know?
no, no. I was definitely just asking because I think, I mean, if, we'll at some point you'll have your links ready and we can share them with people, and you'll see how he'll just melt your face off. So good
Let's just say
stuff.
I know my way around the fretboard, and that's pretty much it.
There you go. There you go. So thank you, Christoph. I'm Alejandro. I'm a management consultant, and I have been practicing. I've been working in this area for a few years now, but I recently reverted, came back to the faith after many years away. I came to my senses. Thank you, Holy Spirit, and I have since tried. I've essentially been trying to work more closely and more consistently with specifically Catholic entrepreneurs and Catholic creatives that are looking to trans, how do basically looking to create businesses out of their existing skills, you know. Yeah, if anybody is would be interested in something like that, then of course all my links will be below. You can please reach out. More than happy to help you. All right, let's dive right into this because I think we've got some we've had some great topics along the way, and let's keep it going. All right, so right, all right, great. So just very quickly for those of you that haven't seen the previous installments, essentially what it is that we are almost done with also Sacrosanctum Concilium. We will be hoping to cover all of the Vatican II documents, and the format is very basic, where we rotate between slides. We'll read them. We'll then give commentary based on Christoph's theological background and my catechetical background and experience as well from my pre-seminary training. So right, there's that. And then this was the day, right? December 4th, 1963 is when the documents dropped. And as the kids say nowadays. And this is it was a very, very tumultuous time, very lot going on in the world. Just earlier this same year, we had the Kennedy assassination. So, many people remember that, or parents will remember that. And so the world was changing, and this council was the way that the Catholic Church was trying to say, all right, how is the church going to show up in the modern world for modern men, right? And so we're going to specifically Sacrosanctum Concilium talks about the Mass, and the Mass as well as the Eucharist is the source and summit of our faith. It's something that we take very, very seriously because let's be honest, it sets us apart. Us and the Eastern and the Orthodox traditions as well. It sets us apart from our Protestant cousins, and so it's very important to know it better, right? Organically. And St. Pius X tells us that the Holy Mass is a prayer in and of itself, even the highest prayer that exists. It is a sacrifice dedicated by our Redeemer at the cross and repeated each day at the altar. If you wish to hear Mass, as it should be heard, you must follow with eye, heart, and mouth all that happens at the altar. Further, you must pray with the priest the holy words said by him in the name of Christ and which Christ says by him. You have to associate your heart with the holy feelings which are contained in these words, and in the matter you ought to follow all that happens at the altar. When acting in this way, you have prayed Holy Mass. Amen. Pope St. Pius X.
Beautiful
So
quote.
we've covered quite a lot, and we have found some stumbling blocks, some things that have come up and been a bit confusing from time to time. And particularly, just an example has been the use of the Latin language, which has sadly fallen completely essentially by the wayside, despite the document explicitly saying that the Latin is to be retained for some, if not most, of the liturgy, right?
Very much
One
so.
you've as you've said before, Christoph, it's essentially become the exception as opposed to the rule, right? So
Rather, the exception became the rule. That's pretty much how it went.
yeah. Yeah, exactly. And so there's and so there's also been a lot of the council also called at least at this part where we are in the document, it also called for the revision of a lot of the rights, essentially every right. And one of the things that we were thinking about, we were reflecting in previous episodes, and that I invite the listeners to reflect on is that the way we I think in the modern world we think, okay, um shorter shorter tends to equal better,
Hmm.
but that is something that, like, I'm not exactly sure that the Council Fathers envisioned just how much shorter, right? Some of the rights would
Yeah.
be curtailed. Moreover, we talked about, of course, we understand that God in His infinite mercy would not completely abandon us to gracelessness, right? So all of the sacraments are valid. However, why don't you tell us a little bit about just very quickly what
Hmm.
that we use the example of baptism, and so very quickly just what we found out there.
Hmm. Sure. So, for all you people out there, what does valid baptism mean? A baptism is valid when it is, and just so you know, anyone can baptize. And it might be a surprise to some, but actually, anyone can baptize. Yeah, it's true, as long as the intention is there. And I actually had a beautiful explanation from the Vatican's website. Let me pull it up right here. Who can baptize? Let me say.
Yeah, you're all
Who
good.
can
You're all good.
baptize? Right. The ordinary ministers of baptism are the bishop and priest, and in the Latin Church, also the deacon. In case of necessity, Any person, even someone not baptized, can baptize if he has the required intention. The intention required is to will to do what the church does when she baptizes and to apply the Trinitarian baptismal formula. The church finds the reason for this possibility in the universal saving will of God and the necessity of baptism for salvation. So, just so you know, people, yes, anyone can baptize, but it's reserved for special circumstances. An ordinary minister would be a priest, and that's the, let's say, by the book way to do it. Anyone can baptize in the case of, well, for example, a danger of death.
Right.
Whenever there's a risk of death involved, anyone can baptize. When the water is used and the Trinitarian formula is used, the Trinitarian formula is I baptize you in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit. This is a valid baptism. But it has to be this specific formula. I baptize you. So if anyone were to say we baptize you, for example, that's an invalid baptism. And unfortunately, stuff like that used to happen here and there, for example, in Protestant churches. Like
Right.
someone say, we baptize you. Like if there was a couple of people baptizing a person, that's an
Right.
invalid
Right.
baptism. I'm sorry. Like I
Right.
know we might, I know some people might react to it as an, oh, like, isn't it too specific? Isn't that all like too rigid or
Mincing
whatever? Like,
words. Yeah.
isn't it missing words? Like, would you like, would you like your lawyer to be, whatever, it's not a big deal? Would you like your lawyer to
Right.
say that? Like, it's not a
Right.
big deal? No, of course. These are very serious matters, my people, and we need to be precise with our language.
Yeah.
If the church calls us to use these specific words, you better use them, shortly speaking.
Right. Right. And I think this is where again we kind of introduce the idea of this, in the whole point of us talking about this and seeming like we're mincing words, kind of like pushing it to the absurd, is because we want to communicate that there's a lot of there's important nuance to take into consideration here. That this idea that Catholics are just kind of like these boxed in, people or that the Orthodox are these boxed in people that believe in just like, okay, just do obedience, right? That they do what they're told, and that the Protestants are like, the free thinking Enlightenment born. It's like that's not the case. It's that
Right,
all of these things have a very clear reason. They have a very clear history, and it can be found, right, if you just take the time. But there's nuance here, and the reason for that is because again, the spirit as Christians, as believing Christians, we take the faith very seriously. I tell people sometimes if they're like, "Are you serious?" I'm like, "I'm serious as a heart attack." It's
hmm
because if you were going
right,
to the doctor and what kind of a diagnosis, how would you feel if the doctor was like, I think it might be this, but let's try
yeah, I
this
don't
out.
know.
I don't know. It's like that's not what you go for. You also, as
Exactly.
Christoph's mentioned, do not pay the lawyer for his like feelings. You pay him or her to be very precise, to be very meticulous. Meticulous is the word, and to have a process. To have some way of justifying what it is that he or she is doing. And so, in the
Exactly.
same way, we take our faith just as seriously, and as did the Lord. The Lord did not mince words. We have moments where very clearly He says, "Not everyone that says Lord or Lord, save me, will be saved." So he was clearly as God. He was all loving, but He is also all just.
Right.
So, moving
Also,
forward,
to add to that,
yeah,
just to add to that a little bit, uh, a very important thing, the Trinitarian formula, like the Trinity is pretty much the one of the most fundamental dogmas of the Christian faith. And that's why, for example, Mormon baptisms wouldn't be valid because they don't
great
hold
example.
on
Thank
to
you.
the Trinitarian dogma, to Trinitarian theology. So Mormon
Right.
baptism would be invalid. Like some time ago, a couple of days ago, I've actually seen an entire list of different, well, let's say congregations or churches, like Protestant
Mm-hmm.
churches or different
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
assemblies. So which baptisms would be considered valid from like which churches or
Right.
like
Right.
different groups, and from like baptisms from which wouldn't be considered valid. I would have to find it somewhere, but yeah, like it was basically an entire list.
Right.
But
Right.
even then, you'd have to be certain the words were, "I baptize you in the name of the Father and of the
Right.
Son and of the Holy Spirit." So it's like a very like, as I said, you got to be very precise.
Right, right, and I mean also because the thing too is that I think there's a certain let's not go too much on a tangent, but I again to build off of that fact, I think that it's very beautiful in that way because it like we get that formula, right? We get that Trinitarian formula from the Lord Himself, right, at the end of the Gospels. And so it's basically saying it's an invitation, right, to participate in Him, right, like in the drama of salvation, right? But He didn't say, just wing it.
Right,
Like he was very, it was an invitation. It was a very sincere and loving invitation, but it was also a very precise one, right? And so you want to make that clear that there's always this, and the struggle, an enormous amount of the struggle in the church over the eons has been exactly that. It's like how much do we hold on to to what degree does man co-create with what the Lord left us with the deposit of faith, right?
right.
Cool. Thank you. Thank you. Cool. So last week we covered this guy, and we covered a little bit about Luther and essentially a lot of what he would very much encourage you to check out the episode. It was a lot of fun to put it together, not because we were kind of ribbing on the Lutherans, not at all. It was actually because there's a very interesting history behind behind a lot of what was happening at the time. A lot of misconceptions. Krzysztof put together some really insightful slides about how what Luther thought about the Mass, which I think is
Right,
something that's very important for people to consider because guess what? It is definitely not the same thing. Like he definitely had some very clear opinions and
read the small
intentions.
called articles.
Yeah,
Read the
yeah.
small called articles, my people.
And he had some very clear intentions for the mass. And so again, I am very much for ecumenism. I'm very much for dialogue and communication with the other faiths. However, I am not I'm not for dialogue at the expense of our Catholicism, at the expense of everything that we hold dear. And that's one of those reasons why we have to have it. We have to have our starting point, our mutual starting off point, very, very clear. Cool. So, that we've got Mr. Filch here reminding us that it is very often that it brings us into trouble. Our kind of
Hmm.
uh, how do I say our going around, our poking around has, can get us into trouble because especially sometimes people are not that people within the hierarchy, people, that we run into might not have a nuanced understanding of this stuff, right? Nonetheless, let's dive right back into it. Christoph, do you want to head us up?
Yeah, let's kick it off. Article 75. Well, the number of anointings. So as for anointings, that's I guess we should go back one slide to give people the context because when it
Do
comes to
you
the
have the doc?
anointings,
Can you pull it up further up? Because I didn't have it on the, I got rid of that
um,
slide on this deck.
hold on.
Can you pull it up to 74
Um, yeah,
in the
just
chapter?
to when it comes to the anointings, or you know what, like let's leave it at that, just to give people context,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
anointings spoken of here are actually it's a matter of anointing of the sick and the extreme unction. So that's what
Right.
the document is talking about to give people the context.
Got it.
So the Article 75, the number of the anointings is to be adapted to the occasion, and the prayers which belong to the rite of anointing are to be revised so as to correspond with the varying conditions of the sick who receive the sacrament. Makes sense. Like, what else is there to
Yeah.
say?
Yeah.
Article 76, both the ceremonies and text of the ordination rites are to be revised. The address given by the bishop at the beginning of each ordination or consecration may be in mother tongue. When a bishop is consecrated, the laying of hands may be done by all the bishops present. The laying of hands is such like the moment, just to stop for a second.
Yeah.
The laying of hands is the way of passing the authority within the church. And just to think about it, so the apostles were chosen by Jesus, and then the apostles laid hands upon the next bishops. The apostles actually were the first bishops, just
Right.
so you know. And they laid hands upon their disciples to be the next bishops, and then they laid hands upon the next bishops, and it continues to this very day.
Right.
That's what we call apostolic succession, and
Right.
it's so beautiful to think it's been going on for almost 2000 years. Like,
That's right.
oh, just
Yeah.
amazing.
That's a great point, Christoph. Thank you for the listeners that if for whatever reason you hear this term apostolic succession or you hear the apostolic churches, right? And or when you are, let's say you're interested and you're first getting into the faith, you're learning about the Nicene Creed, right? I believe in one holy Catholic and apostolic church. Like this is exactly what
Right,
is meant by that. That there has been this successive laying on of hands ever since the apostles, which is really cool to think about. So yeah,
right.
go on.
Article 77. The marriage rite now found in the Roman ritual is to be revised and enriched in such a way that the grace of the sacrament is more clearly signified and the duties of the spouses are taught. If any regions are wont to use other praiseworthy customs and ceremonies when celebrating the sacrament of matrimony, the Sacred Synod earnestly desires that these by all means be retained. There's actually a beautiful custom in Croatia when they get married. Like the spouses,
Tell
I
us
believe,
about it.
are presented with a cross. I would actually have to dig into it a little bit more, but Croatia has a beautiful tradition
Cool.
regarding the sacrament of matrimony. Like they're basically, yeah, I would have to look it
Yeah,
up
yeah, it's okay.
a
No,
little
it's okay.
bit.
You can. Yeah, 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 sure.
So you know what? I'll actually because I actually remind myself of it. I need to uh, let me look it up right now, real quick. Why not?
Yeah, sure. No,
The
I'll just
marriage
mention.
crucifix, the marriage
Go
crucifix
ahead.
tradition. There it is. So
All right.
my source is covenantco.org. Hold on. Where is it? Uh, so it's actually a piece of blog. It started in a small town called Siroki. The couple will carry a crucifix to the altar and receive a blessing from the priest. When they say their vows, they each hold on to the crucifix.
Hmm.
This is beautiful. This is beautiful. So what I'm reading is actually from a blog post, but it basically explains the whole thing. And
Okay,
well,
send it to me later. We'll put it in the show notes so
sure.
people can check it out as a beautiful yeah, tradition. One of the things that while you do that, one of the things that I'll remind people, the reason that this comes up is because this is not so different from the way that the church has always done things. It's always the church has always sanctified existing rituals so long as they do not overtly contradict or go against or foster some kind of a unchristian attitude, right? So some kind of a superstition, some kind of anything that drives you away from the core values of the faith. A
Very
lot
much
of
so.
traditions, especially in the East, right? Especially in Eastern Europe, a lot of folkish traditions have been retained to the betterment, of the local customs, right? So
Also, the priest
yeah.
says, "You have found your cross. It is a cross to love, to carry it with you, a cross that is not to throw away, but to treasure." The priest covers their hands with his stole as they exchange their vows according to the rite of the church to be faithful to each other in joy and in sorrow, in sickness and in health, till death do them part. Then, instead of kissing each other, the bride and groom kiss the crucifix.
Wow.
Now,
That's
that's
hardcore.
powerful.
That's
That's
metal.
powerful. Like, that's basically a call, like, no, like, I know you guys feel all lovey-dovey today, but you're entering upon you're entering on a journey together, and
Yeah,
you are
sure.
supposed to carry each other's crosses. So
Right,
don't forget
right,
that.
right,
Like the goal
right,
of marriage is to help the other person get to heaven. So remember
right.
that. All
Absolutely.
right,
As to bring them home. Yeah, that's exactly it.
exactly. All right, to continue. Moreover, the competent territorial ecclesiastical authority mentioned in Article 22, in Article 52 as well, of this Constitution is free to draw up its own right suited to the usages of place and people, according to the provision of Article 63. But the right must always conform to the law that the priest assisting at the marriage must ask for and obtain the consent of the contracting parties. Makes sense, right?
Sure.
Yeah, Article 78. Matrimony is normally to be celebrated within the Mass, after the reading of the Gospel and the homily, and before the prayer of the faithful. The prayer for the bride, duly amended to remind both spouses of their equal obligation to remain faithful to each other, may be said in the mother tongue. But if the sacrament of matrimony is celebrated apart from Mass, the epistle and gospel from the nuptial Mass are to be read at the beginning of the rite, and the blessing should always be given to the spouses.
Okay. So, do you have anything to comment on that?
Not really. I guess we can
No.
keep going.
Okay. No, I just wanted to say real quick that, like, again, so we see a pattern here, right? We've been talking a lot about, as I mentioned when we started, we're looking at revisions, right? We were talking. We've seen at least well over 3 or 4 times we've seen the word revision, revision, revision. That's in one slide alone. There's much more to come. I want to just I want the people this word. I would like this word to just kind of stick out in people's minds and to understand and to ask yourself, when you think revision, what are the things that come to mind? Maybe some people also come from an academic background. If not, that's okay. When you're writing, when you're kind of formulating any kind of communication, you go through like iterations, right? I want people to just think to themselves, what are the things that you associate with revision, and then and start and keep it in the back of your mind and ask, okay, well, what does that mean? How far does something have to be revised before it is no longer recognizable, right? And so I just want to have people keep that in mind. All right, cool. So, 79. The sacraments are to undergo a revision, which takes into account the primary principle of enabling the faithful to participate intelligently, actively, and easily. The circumstances of our own days must also be considered. When rituals are revised, as laid down in Article 63, new sacramentals may also be added as the need for these become apparent. Reserved blessings shall be very few. Reservations shall be in favor of bishops or ordinaries. Let provision be made that some sacramentals, at least in special circumstances and at the discretion of the ordinary, may be administered by qualified laypersons. Okay, I'm not. Are you familiar with any pattern like this within your church?
Actually, not really. I would have to dig a little bit deeper into it, if I'm honest. As
Okay, no, that's
for
fine.
the blessings that could be administered by qualified laypersons, uh, yeah, hasn't really happened in like at least I'm not familiar with how it's done in my parish. I haven't really seen it
Right,
in my own parish.
right, right.
But definitely, as for blessings themselves, um, like just to since we're on the topic of blessings, parents bless your children always. Bless
Mm,
your children.
mm,
You
yeah,
have the authority to do so,
of course.
and yeah, parents bless your children always,
Yeah. Absolutely. If possible, keep a little holy water font,
for sure.
close to and then always just slather it on. Yeah, one of the things is that I have personally, I'd be very curious to understand what qualified means, right? Like to qualify the
Mm,
qualifier.
right.
Specifically just because to me that's like really ambiguous. I don't know what that means. Like, is it the
Mm,
Eucharistic minister? Is it the lector? Like, is it just some person that regularly shows up? Like, what's the story here? So this is something that, again, we're here to be thoughtful and ask questions. The right for consecration of virgins, as present found in the Roman Pontifical, is to be revised. Okay, little bit above my pay grade, so I'm going to move on.
mhm,
Moreover, a rite of religious profession and renewal of vows shall be drawn up in order to achieve greater unity, sobriety, and dignity. Apart from exceptions in particular law, this rite should be adopted by those who make profession or renewal of vows within the Mass. So I'm not under any I was never under the impression that unity, sobriety, and dignity was found lacking in any of the previously existing rites. I I've witnessed both versions of rites. I've witnessed
mhm.
Eastern rites. I do not see any lack of unity, confusion, sobriety, or dignity. Just food for thought. Religious professions should be preferably made. Professions should preferably be made. Excuse me, everyone. Within the mass. All right. The right for the burial of the dead should express more clearly the paschal character of Christian death, and should correspond more closely to the circumstances and traditions found in various regions. This holds this holds good also for the liturgical color to be used. Again, I'm at a loss as to understanding where where this was found lacking. I don't, it's especially because as we were talking about, the church has had a long-standing tradition, even in places like South America, for example. Again, there's a lot of regionalities, like regional traditions, regional spices, spiritual spices that have salt and peppered a lot of the tradition there, and I've never been under the impression that this was lacking, right, in the universal church. The right for the burial of infants is to be revised, and a special mass for the occasion should be provided. Sure.
Mhm. Let's
Chapter
keep going.
4.
The Divine Office. Article 83. Christ Jesus, High Priest of the new and eternal covenant, taking human nature, introduced into this earthly exile that hymn which is sung throughout all ages in the halls of heaven. He joins the entire community of mankind to himself, associating it with his own singing of this canticle of divine praise. For he continues his priestly work through the agency of his church, which is ceaselessly engaged in praising the Lord and interceding for the salvation of the whole world. She does this not only by celebrating the Eucharist, but also in other ways, especially by praying the Divine Office. The Divine Office is pretty much the prayer of the entire church. So, have any of you heard of the breviary? So that's basically where you find the prayers of the Divine Office. Uh, yeah, it's basically the prayer of the entire church. So if any of you are looking for new ways to pray, or are struggling to pray, or don't really know how to, and maybe are looking for some guidelines, why not try to pray the Divine Office? Actually, it's
Yeah.
like the way the prayers within the Divine Office are structured. Also, it's like it's so beautiful.
Yeah.
Just love the way it's structured.
Yeah. This
It's
is
very
the
concrete.
that I can only second that. That's one of I could talk forever about that. I pray the office myself. It's the Benedictine version of the monastic hours, so it's slightly off from the Roman hours, but it's all essentially the same. Essentially the same prayers, right? And so same intention. Sorry, slightly different prayers because of the difference in tradition. However, it's the Psalms. It's the Psalms very bundled and footmark or bundled and packaged with very beautiful prayers relating to wherever you are. And I have found that it is very powerful to build the discipline to have a place to be, right, to show up, right, to pray.
Definitely.
Cool.
Article 84. By tradition, going back to early Christian times, the divine office is devised so that the whole course of the day and night is made holy by the praises of God. Therefore, when this wonderful song of praise is rightly performed by priests and others who are deputed for this purpose by the Church's ordinance, or by the faithful praying together with the priest in the approved form, then it is truly the voice of the bride addressed to her bridegroom. It is the very prayer which Christ himself, together with his body, addresses to the Father. I mean, it's beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, I mean, I'm slightly in awe right now, just taking it all in.
I mean, nobody ever like the documents are very beautifully written. There's nothing, it's clear. I have nothing to say about the prose that has been put into these documents, and I can only encourage people to go read them yourselves. So have at it.
Yeah. Article 85. Hence, all who render the service are not only fulfilling a duty of the Church, but also are sharing in the greatest honor of Christ's spouse. For by offering these praises to God, they are standing before God's throne in the name of the Church, their mother. Article 86. Priests who are engaged in the sacred pastoral ministry will offer the praises of the hours with greater fervor the more vividly they realize that they must heed St. Paul's exhortation, pray without ceasing. That comes from First Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 11. For the work in which they labor will affect nothing and bring forth no fruit except by the power of the Lord, who said, "Without me you can do nothing." That is why the apostles, instituting deacons, said, "We will devote ourselves to prayer and to the ministry of the word."
Beautiful. There's
Beautiful.
this reminds me very much of this, I believe it's the song. Yeah, right here. Okay, so Psalm 127, Song of Ascents of Solomon. Unless the Lord builds the house, the builders labor in vain. Unless the Lord watches over the city, the guards stand watch in vain. In vain you rise early and stay up late, toiling for food to eat, for he grants sleep to to those he loves. And that's for that summarizes, I think, so much of what is constantly felt when you're in a good habit of prayer, um, keeping the Lord in mind always. Good stuff. Anything else?
Uh, I have nothing to add. Like, all I can say is, like, if any of you have never prayed the divine office, just give it a try. It just might transform your prayer life.
Absolutely. You can also start very slowly, right? So it's very intimidating at first. It might be very intimidating at first because of all the rules and people that might not like rules. It might be quite intimidating at first, but you can start with the Angelus, which is a very like 3 minute long prayer that you can say every day at noon. You can
Mhm.
start with Compline, which is always the same prayer every single day, and you can also and usually also your the wherever if you have access to church and it's nearby, you can go to Vespers in the evening and do Vespers, which is led usually by co-led
Right.
by someone in the congregation and the priest and or both. So
If you
there's
could
that.
do just Lauds, Vespers, and Compline, like it'll be more than enough to get you started. Just
Yeah,
saying.
sure. I just mentioned Compline because again, it doesn't never changes, so you can find
Mhm.
Compline like online and just recite that every day. You can start with the Angelus at 12, Compline at 6, and then you can also the reason that I didn't bring up Lauds and Vespers is because those change depending on the season,
Mhm.
and the calendar, and so that might startle people off a little bit, but it's okay. Again, just go full ham.
Yeah.
Good stuff. All right. So, next point, 81. In order the divine office may better and more perfectly prayed in existing circumstances, whether by priest or by other members of the church, the sacred council, carrying further the restoration already so happily begun by the apostolic see, has seen fit to decree as follows concerning the office of the Roman Rite. Because the purposes of the office is to sanctify the day, the traditional sequence of the hours is to be restored, so that once again they may be genuinely related to the time of the day when they are prayed, as far as this may be possible. Moreover, it will be necessary to take into account the modern conditions in which daily life has to be lived, especially by those who are called to labor in the apostolic works. Therefore, when the office is revised, these norms are to be observed. By the venerable tradition of the Universal Church, Lauds as morning prayer and Vespers as evening prayer are the two hinges on which the daily office turns. Hence, they are to be considered as the chief hours and are to be celebrated as such. Compline is to be drawn up so that it will be a suitable prayer for the end of the day. The hour known as matins, also, although it should retain the character of nocturnal praise when celebrated in choir, shall be adapted so that it may be recited at any hour of the day. It shall be made up of fewer psalms and longer readings. The hour of prime is to be suppressed. Okay, I have some questions. The choir of the hours of terce, sext, none are to be observed, but is outside choir it will be lawful to select any one of these three according to the respective time of the day. I only recently learned about this suppression of prime while I was preparing the slides and just kind of in recent research. And I'm confused. My breviary has prime. It's the Benedictine monastic breviary kept prime. And I haven't yet found a reason for suppressing it. Have you?
I actually haven't. I would have to ask a liturgist just to see why it was suppressed.
Right.
Uh, yeah, like I'm not exactly sure. Never heard about it, and like I said, liturgy is actually not my specialty, so I would have to ask a liturgist to
Yeah, yeah, sure. Of
just
course, of
figure
course.
figure it out. But when it comes to
Yeah.
the matins, yeah, it's actually in many monastic traditions, in some orders, the monks would wake up at night to recite the matins or to
Right.
sing the matins.
Right.
However, you know, however, it was revised so that depending on the order, each order has their own rule of living.
Right.
So for many priests, matins can be prayed at any time of the day. So while the priests at a seminary, so while the seminarians or priests living at a parish will usually pray will usually pray the lauds and vespers together. Uh, the matins can be prayed at any time of the day, and it's usually very much individual.
Laud and Vespers is prayed. Why is Laud and did I misunderstand? Like Laud
So
and Vespers is not prayed together because Vespers is in the
I, I, I,
evening
I
by
s-
yeah.
I- I said lauds and vespers are often prayed together, as in
Yes, yeah, but
not together as prayers, but in community. That's what I meant to say.
okay, okay.
And I meant in
Okay.
community.
Got it. Got it. Got
Oh,
it. Got it. Okay. Understood. Understood. Got it. Got it. Okay. Cool. Little dangling participle. All right.
yeah.
So, no, no, no. Cool. Now I understood. All right. Got it. Got it. Cool. Right. So in community. Yeah, for sure. No, absolutely. And so, but there you go. Again, so, these are, if you, it might sound a little bit like, again, a little bit like mincing words, a little kind of, being a stickler about things. But, you should ask, okay, well, why is it perfectly good? The office of prime takes all of 15 minutes to pray. Like when I pray it, if it takes me 15 minutes, even if I wake up, even if the few times that I can wake up at 6 to pray it, I pray it, I can always go back to bed. Like it doesn't, it doesn't, it's one of those things where like it costs you nothing and it sets your brain up in a completely different way, for the whole day. And so I ask myself, yeah, okay, well, sure, and I'm a layperson, and if I don't do it, it's like, okay, well, if I don't do it, I'm the one who misses out on it, right? But if you're a monk or a religious, it's like, again, it's literally like what you do, right? So so it bears ask. All I'm saying, and all I want the listeners to take into consideration is it bears asking questions when hundreds year long traditions are just kind of written off in two lines, right? So, got it. Next one, go.
Article 90. The divine office, because it is the public prayer of the church, is a source of piety and nourishment for personal prayer, and therefore priests and all others who take part in the divine office are earnestly exhorted in the Lord to attune their minds to their voices when praying it. The better to achieve this, let them take steps to improve their understanding of the liturgy and of the Bible, especially of the Psalms. In revising the Roman office, its ancient and venerable treasures are to be so adapted that all those to whom they are handed on may more extensively and easily draw profit from them. Yeah, pretty
Yeah,
much
go on.
so. Article 91. So that it may really be possible in practice to observe the course of the hours proposed in Article 89, the Psalms are no longer to be distributed throughout one week, but through some longer period of time. The work of revising the Psalter, already happily begun, is to be finished as soon as possible, and is to take into account the style of Christian Latin, the liturgical use of psalms, also when sung, and the entire tradition of the Latin Church. The style of Christian Latin, yeah, it actually reminds me of something, but I lost my thought. I hate when this
Is it
happens,
is
but
it
I
is it
actually lost
about
my.
is it about the phonetics, the differences in phonetics, the way that that you say it? Could that
Take
be it?
into account
Or
the style of, you know what? It was more so regarding, I believe it was that it was about the hymns. There was something about the
okay,
hymns in the Old Psalter. Like
okay,
many of them were revised, I think.
sure, all right,
Something along those lines. I would have to check what I have exactly,
it's okay. Go on.
but it
That's
reminds
fine.
me of something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Article 92. As regards the readings, the following shall be observed. A. Readings from sacred scripture shall be arranged so that the riches of God's word may be easily accessible in more abundant measure. B. Readings excerpted from the works of the fathers, doctors, and ecclesiastical writers shall be better selected. C. The accounts of martyrdom or the lives of the saints are to accord with the facts of history, which makes sense. Like, I'm wondering if the part C, when it comes to are to accord with the facts of history, I'm wondering if it has to do with the legend of Saint George about how he slayed the dragon. Like, I wonder if that was included.
Maybe, maybe. I mean,
Maybe
I
that's,
mean,
yeah,
go ahead.
maybe that's what it's all about. I just want to say that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, maybe like it's one of those things where I think I remember once I was speaking with a friend who explained that he explained that it's that while the existence of Saint George again is not, let's say, this historical existence in the way that we understand that Saint Francis existed, for example, or Saint or Saint Thomas Aquinas, right? Like these were actual figures in history. While we don't have that for Saint George, there is something to be said about part of the mysticism within the Christian tradition, right? And the fact that that again, according to the that if it is something that assists in your devotion and if it assists in the improving of the understanding, right, which is what it just said above, right, of understanding of virtue and any of the other things that represent that can be extracted from the faith for the faithful. um hey, it should be allowed, but that's just my 2 cents. Go on that point.
Mhm. Article 93, to whatever extent may seem desirable, the hymns are to be restored to their original form, and whatever smacks of mythology or ill accords with Christian piety is to be removed or changed. Also, as occasion may arise, let other selections from the treasury of hymns be incorporated. So yeah, makes sense to me. I mean, to be honest, like we should eliminate, as mentioned, what smacks of mythology or ill accords with Christian piety. Like that's, we should treat our faith seriously, and we should be grounded in reality at the end of the day. So whenever something appears, as it's written right here, which smacks of mythology, like, yeah, maybe not include that. Let's not
I
include
think
that.
I think that this is while I would agree on its face, I think the formatting of this is a bit insidious. Why? Because I understand, for example, the other day I heard that there was some kind of that there used to be the other day I heard that there's a lot of really strange uh legends surrounding some saints, right?
Mm.
Like there's legends about like people regrowing hands and people bringing chickens back to life. Like there's
Mm.
like a lot of really weird things that are not really related to anything, right? It's just like
Right.
it sounds like the ravings of just like maybe some overly enthusiastic townsfolk, right?
Mm.
However, I would like to remind people that we are, by our very nature, not a cold, rational religion. We just aren't. Like, there's nothing cold and rational. But people don't come back from the dead.
Right.
Like they just don't. People tend to stay dead. And so and so from its very inception, we have a very outlandish claim, to say the least. And I think that the formulation of this seems to me it sounds a bit kind of it sounds a bit pedantic. It sounds a bit kind of like, oh, like don't give into the. It's just like they could have just it could have been formulated in this way of like, because in the earlier documents we've seen conversation about like respecting local traditions and respecting local customs. It's just like, and now it's just kind of like, oh well, if it smells of like mythology, then kind of just get rid of it. And it's like, well, you could also just say if it if the mythology if it's mythology that directly contradicts the faith or that it doesn't bring fruit for the faithful, it should be
Well, to be
avoided,
honest,
right?
to be honest, when it comes to the what was written earlier regarding the local traditions and stuff like that, there is the caveat if it's not intrinsically superstitious and all
Yeah,
that stuff. So I guess
yeah,
that's
sure.
there's no contradiction there. Like it actually com like this article actually complements what was said before.
Right, right. No, and again, I just didn't like the. I mean, I'm not I'm not shoving anything off. I'm just saying that like we are inherently when I read that line, what I thought was just like we are inherently a faith that believes in like extraordinary things, and things are not always. There's nothing normal about about touching some saintly knuckle and getting healed. Like there's
Right.
nothing normal about getting an intercession from Saint Charbel. Like that, there's nothing normal
Mm.
about that. So cool. I'm up, right?
Right.
Yes. Cool. That the day may be truly sanctified and the hours themselves be recited with spiritual advantage, it is best that each of them be prayed at the time with most closely corresponds with its true canonical time. Communities obliged to choral office are bound to celebrate the office in choir every day, in addition to conventional mass. In particular, A. Orders of canons, of monks, of nuns, and of regulars bound to law or constitutions of choral office must celebrate the entire office. Cathedral or collegiate chapters are bound to recite those parts of the office imposed to them by the general or particular law. C. All members of the above communities who are in major orders or who are solemnly professed, except for lay brothers, are bound to recite individually those canonical hours which they do not pray in choir. 96. Clerics not bound to office in choir, if they are in major orders, are bound to pray the entire office every day, either in common or individually, as laid down by Article 89. 97. Appropriate instances are to be defined by the rubrics in which liturgical service may be substituted for the divine office. In particular cases, and for just reason, Ordinaries can dispense their subjects wholly or in part from the obligation of reciting the divine office, or may commute the obligation. 98. Members of any institution, many of members of any institute dedicated to acquiring perfection who, according to their constitutions, are to recite any other parts of the divine office, are thereby performing the public prayer of the church. Okay, you
Mhm.
may
Right.
go on.
Yeah, and just so you know, people, every priest is obliged to recite the divine office every day. Like, it might surprise you, but actually, if you were to look in the canon law, the priests aren't obliged to celebrate Mass every day, which might be a shocker to some people, but they are obliged to recite the divine office every day. That's how it works. Of course,
I mean, I mean, I imagine it's because you are not, especially if you are a mission priest, right? Or
it might be.
you're because if you're a priest in again, if you're for or if you're in some instances where maybe you're an activist priest, right? Kind of a pro-life
Mhm,
person or whatever, and you're in the front lines of war somewhere, like you don't have access to the place where you have to have the mass,
mhm.
right? But you can carry your office book around basically anywhere.
Right.
So yeah.
So the mass, so regarding the mass, like the priests are obliged to celebrate mass and participate in mass every Sunday, like just like any other Catholic, pretty much. But they are obliged to recite the divine office every day. Also, I know they are obliged to participate in mass every Sunday, like every other Catholic. As to whether they are obliged to celebrate Mass, I would have to look it up. Just so you know, canon law is not my specialty, once again, people. All
All
right.
good. All good.
They too
um
perform the public prayer of the Church, who, in virtue of their constitutions, recite any short office, provided this is drawn up after the pattern of the divine office and is duly approved. Article 99. Since the divine office is the voice of the church, that is, of the whole mystical body publicly praising God, those clerics who are not obliged to office in choir, especially priests who live together or who assemble for any purpose, are urged to pray at least some part of the divine office in common. All who pray the divine office, whether in choir or in common, should fulfill the task entrusted to them as perfectly as possible. This refers not only to the internal devotion of their minds, but also to their external manner of celebration. It is moreover fitting that the office, both in choir and in common, be sung when possible. See that? The task and should fulfill the task entrusted to them as perfectly as possible. And like that shouldn't be that's not only about the divine office, like it's like we should all take that into consideration, like that applies to all of us in anything we do regarding our faith.
right.
So when we that it actually I would say it's actually connected, or we could connect that to active participation during mass.
Mhm.
You know, how we should really be present with our mind and soul
Yeah,
and be
for
aware of
sure.
what's happening during Mass.
Absolutely.
Like, we could totally apply it to the Mass as well, easily.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. I think it's also just really quick that came to mind. I think perfectly is sometimes, especially now, there's a lot of this there's a lot of this I think there's this misunderstanding of perfectly. I think
Hmm.
perfectly because now we have such a permissive self-indulgent hedonistic kind of culture. I think often people hear perfection and they're just kind of like, ugh, it's kind of just like, well, nothing's
Hmm.
perfect. Nobody's perfect. And it's kind of, and people have really taken and twisted the word. I think what they're trying to communicate here is that you do it thoughtfully, that you do it fully, that
Hmm.
you do it with the intention, with your most perfect intentions, right?
Right.
And that by doing so, you are consistently always striving for a closer union with God. Um, obviously nobody's ever gonna achieve this kind of perfection. So it's ridiculous to think that that's what the church is asking for. It's just
And of course,
to think that way.
do your best. Do your best. Like
Yeah,
results may
right.
vary, but do your best. That's basically what
I
it's
feel
all
like
about.
I feel like that's we need a disclosure. We should start handing out we should start handing out like churches should start handing out like Catholic welcome packages. This is like what is it? Results may vary, but try, you lazy sinner. Good. Excellent.
Let's keep
Go on.
going. Let's keep going. Article 100. Pastors of souls should see to it that the chief hours, especially Vespers, are celebrated in common in church on Sundays and the more solemn feast. And the laity, too, are encouraged to recite the divine office, either with the priests or among themselves or even individually.
Bring it
So,
home, Krzysztof. We're done. We're almost done. Last slide, people. Last slide.
we're
Go
almost
on.
done. So, also when it comes to the Vespers being celebrated at the church, well, it doesn't really happen at my church, but for example, there's a basilica in the city of Trzebnica. Like, I believe they celebrate Vespers every day there, like in
Mm,
the evening.
mm.
So yeah, it's actually a beautiful tradition, and people actually show up and participate with the priests.
Sure.
So like it's beautiful, and
Sure.
I wish more places would do that. All right, let's keep it going. Article 101. In accordance with the centuries-old tradition of the Latin Rite, the Latin language is to be retained by clerics in the divine office. Once
Well,
again,
look
like
at
that,
that.
uh, like once again, that's now how did that work out?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But in
And last
individual
time, and
cases,
sorry, sorry.
keep
And
going,
last
keep
time
going, keep going.
for the last time we also covered. If you didn't get to it, we covered how in the last episode, if you want to check it out, where we covered with Martin Luther. Martin Luther as well actually did not want to abrogate, did not want to get rid of Latin, and actually encouraged keeping Latin within the liturgy. And so again, there's not there it within all of the documents. This is our last slide for Sacrosanctum Concilium. Within Sacrosanctum Concilium alone, the appeal to retaining Latin in the liturgy has come up at least three times, if not more, and it was promoted by Luther. So I don't ever want to hear anybody again telling me about like, oh,
To keep it
Latin.
with to keep with the spirit of doing it live, I need to let out my cat out of the room. All right, I'm
Yeah,
back.
sure.
All right. Yeah. But in individual cases, the ordinary has the power of granting the use of a vernacular translation to those clerics for whom the use of Latin constitutes a grave obstacle to their praying the office properly. The vernacular version, however, must be one that is drawn up according to the provision of Article 36. I mean, all right, but I don't know, it seems like the knowledge of Latin in general is on a decline still, and like in individual cases. And now it seems like once again, Latin is almost non-existent. So go figure.
I think it's coming back. I think it'll
Yeah,
come back.
hopefully.
I
Hopefully.
think it'll come back.
All
Go on.
right. Point two. The competent superior has the power to grant the use of the vernacular in the celebration of the divine office, even in choir to nuns and to members of institutes dedicated to acquiring perfection, both men who are not clerics and women. The version, however, must be one that is approved. And point number three, any cleric bound to the divine office fulfills his obligation if he prays the office in the vernacular together with a group of the faithful or with those mentioned in 50 to above, provided that the text of the translation is approved.
Excellent. Any final thoughts, Christoph, on that?
Not really. Like, let's just hope Latin makes a comeback. I mean, just to let you know, people, just to let you know, people, in my parish, like now, of course, we're in the season of Lent right now, and in my parish, the organist started singing the ordinary in Latin, the ordinary of the
Beautiful.
Mass. So
Beautiful.
I'm all for it. So, well, Kyrie is in Greek, so all right, with the exception
Yeah.
of that. But there's Kyrie, there's Sanctus, there's Agnus
Great.
Dei. It's all in Latin, and
Love it.
like I'm all for it. Like
What about
whenever
the Our Father or the Creed? Do any of those get sung in Latin
uh,
or
no, most of the time we actually recite the creed. We don't sing the creed, we recite the
okay.
creed,
Okay,
and
okay.
so that's how it is. But at
Got it.
least you know, at least she decided to sprinkle in some Latin here and there, and
Yeah.
I greatly appreciate it. So yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
if you ever
whenever.
get the if you ever get the chance when or maybe when I come visit, we'll go to a Sunday high mass in the Latin rite, and
Oh
oh
yeah.
man, when the singing of the creed is n next level. I can't recommend that enough.
Oh, I can imagine.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I'm
Well,
pretty sure it's definitely going to scratch my liturgical itch.
excellent. Scratch it, scratch it. Well, okay. So, that we've done it, people. We've done it,
Hmm?
Christoph. That is
Yay!
Sacrosanctum Concilium. It has taken us 4 episodes and about just as many hours to go through the document. With here in this kind of a tandem tag team form of discussion. We really hope that you've enjoyed it. We really hope we are going to. Are we going to continue, Christoph? Are you with me on this?
Totally. Oh yeah.
He's like, yeah,
We
sure.
we definitely will.
Excellent. So we're gonna keep it going. I have yet to we have yet to decide which
Hmm.
document we're gonna tackle next. There are some long ones. There are some shorter ones. We
Yeah.
will see and let you guys know.
Yeah, I'd
Beef
actually love to take on Lumen Gentium next time.
Lumen Gentium. All right. All
Yeah,
right.
I
Cool.
mean that's a pretty strong contender, I would say.
I was
Lumen
gonna say
Gentium is definitely.
either it was gonna be either
Mhm.
Lumen Gentium or Dei Verbum because those are the two most
Mhm.
outside of this one. Those are the two most cited ones that I've seen. And so,
Mhm.
but we'll keep you on the cliffhanger, people, and then we'll see. We'll have it there. Before we head out, though, given for those interested, there is a new. I'm for those of you that don't know, within Krzysztof is coming to us from Poland, lovely Poland, and I am in Germany. And the church in Germany right now is having some pains, to put it politically correct, and and there's a lot of upheaval, there's a lot of confusion. The Catholic Germans Bishops' Conference has just met and elected a new head of the conference, which will also de facto be leading the German Synodal Way. The German Synodal Way is the German bishop's interpretation of the Synod on Synodality as it was kicked off by Pope
Mhm.
Francis, which has been met with mixed results and has a lot of people like myself coming into the church after many years, scratching their heads and feeling like they've been away while there was a party that they need to catch up on. so, so, so I will. So that being said, I really want to invoke everyone within the church to very much pray as I pray. I pray every day for the bishops everywhere around the world who have a very difficult job that we can't possibly imagine, a mandate that we can't possibly imagine, and to pray that their hearts may always and continuously be converted to Christ, and that they put that despite whatever things might be happening politically and elsewhere, that they really reorient their hearts always consistently towards the living tradition of the church. And so I invite everyone to do that same and to stay aware and awake. And I came across First John
Awake, not
4.
woke.
Yeah, exactly. Amen, brother. Awake, not woke. Yes. And that was a good one. Good tag team. So we didn't plan that, by the way. That was just he's just the man. And I recently came across this today, and I wanted to share. I thought that it was very timely, and I wanted to share this. So we're looking at here in the slide, First John chapter 4, where he says, "Beloved, do not believe every spirit, but test the spirits to see whether they are of God. For many false prophets have gone out into the world. By this you know the Spirit of God. Every spirit which confesses that Jesus Christ has come in the flesh is of God, and every spirit that does not confess Jesus is not of God. uh, this is the spirit of the Antichrist, of which you heard that is coming, and now it is in the world already. Little children, you are of God and have overcome them, for he who is in you is greater than he who is in the world. They are of the world. Therefore, what they say is in the world, and the world listens to them. We are of God. Whoever knows God listens to us, and he who is not of God does not listen to us. By this we know the spirit of truth and the spirit of error. And so I just want to
What we
leave
think.
that with you to think that to understand that it is the proof that since the earliest days of the church there have been wolves in sheep's clothing, and that we must pray for them because that is the commandment to pray and to know the truth, to keep the truth, and to pray for those who would divide us. And on that note, this has been How Much Time Do You Have? We hope you had the time. Thank you for your attention, your patience, and listening. Tune back next week, and God bless. Take care.
Thank you. Signing out.
Signing out. Bye.